But I want y'all guys to hop in because we got 29 minutes left, and I scrapped everything that I wanted to talk about to talk with y'all. So because I like this conversation, let's keep going.
Got you. So I think I have a way of throwing you off topic. Got you. Check this out, y'all. Check this out. Yes. Number one, I want to go back to Thomas. You made a post on the internet the other day that nobody cares about a black man's feelings or mental health until he snaps off, right?
Yep.
I'm going to talk about how I came to be here today. The other day, I started off what I said, we need to have an emergency meeting. One of my next posts was, I used to cry on the internet because African-American organizations wouldn't help me help people, right? That's a real thing. Yeah. I want to preference this by saying, if a white person doesn't like me because I'm black, that's not racism. Mm-hmm. That's prejudice. Yep. That's their personal opinion. Racism is the ability to have control over a race of people, their economics, their social well-being. That's racism, right? Yep. So when I was a Democrat for a long time, until the first time I ran for a race. So I'm going to say some things here. So give me a moment, and I'm going to bring it back. My first race, I was bribed. I used to live in Bloomington and Eden Prairie, you know, and I brought it to the party like a sitting politician told me if I drop out of this race, he'll give me the office that he holds now after he wins. But I'm like, how do you do that if you were voted for it, right? I reported it to the people it needed to be. Nobody did nothing because everybody I reported it to was in control. I want to go back to when I said, let me say this. The reason why I seem like sometimes I'm crazy or this nigga spazzing or he crying or he doing this is because I take years. Some of my Facebook posts take years. The words in the post takes years because research went into it, development went into it, traveling miles went into it, networking went into it. So when I bring it back to my state, I say, brothers, here, I have this. All we got to do is come together. Yeah. And the upper echelon people in the state of Minnesota can come together and help us. But I'm going to say this, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong or right or in between. It's our own people in this state from the top down. It is the reason why certain things don't, that collective vision, right? Our people are already taken. They're already taken, right? And what I mean by that is, please give me 2 more minutes. I was running for federal Senate, right? So I can actually write bills for our state. You know, senators can write special bills. They don't have to be for the whole entire government. It could be just for Minnesota, right? Yeah. I was running with the Legal Now Marijuana Party because I was an endorsed candidate. They had did what they were supposed to do to be a major party. Yeah. Ken Martin, my nemesis, used to be my homie, does every year, which leads me to looking crazy. I'm crying on the internet because how do y'all let this white man do this to your brother who you know, right? This year, he went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court says, you know what? They changed the law. Steve Simon says, well, we didn't do nothing wrong. Keith Ellison says, yeah, the state didn't do nothing wrong. They're a major party. But the Supreme Court is the Supreme Court is the Supreme Court is the Supreme Court, right? And I'm going to say this too. Paul Thiessen, Supreme Court dude, the night of our convention for the marijuana party, Paul Thiessen, I don't know if it was the one, but there was a Paul Thiessen on our Zoom. We're in a building, but plus also got this information going out. And I say it, you know, what I'm trying to say is the people who are in control stop us from getting together. And until we turn our backs on them, literally, if I can get 50 brothers to say we no longer support Tim Walz, 1,000 white people will no longer support Tim Walz because we call them our allies. For every 50 of us is 1,000 of them in the room. Am I correct? Because we go to these conventions, you know, the state party conventions. It's our fault, and I include me in there. All I can do is keep trying, because some days I want to give up, right? But it's our fault that we are not where we are, because back to again, well, if I support you, you have no idea how many black men in power look me in my face and tell me, if I support you, they'll take away my endorsement. If I support you, they'll take away my money. If I support you, they'll label me malfeasant like they did you. And I say, I'm not talking about democratic ideologies, self-reparations. Same with what John said. If we pool our money together, same with what you're saying. If we do this, but name somebody that's black in Minnesota that's in some form of power,
Yeah.
that's not a Democrat.
Hey,
So
I mean that. Say that because I need to know who that person is, because I need to talk to them. I need help, right? Because I've tried everybody else.
I wanted to say
Except
this
for
before your
y'all.
23
You know, you
minutes
get
run
what I'm
out,
saying,
too.
though.
To make a long story short, I won the Democratic Party's endorsement, and then my team had to go to the DFL and say, hey, are you going to give this man some reason? Because they wouldn't reach out to me. They didn't even want me as a member of their party.
Mm-hmm.
This nigga talk too much, right? So when you talk about Ken Martin, that was triggering, because Ken Martin actually delivered Joe Biden signs. He said, John, I see your signs are all over the east side of St. Paul, and I want to know if you're doing any door knocking, can you put these Joe Biden signs down? But he delivered them to my house when I was at work.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, well, do John Thompson live on the east side? And Ken Martin says, well, if John Thompson can't prove where he lives, then I think you should step down. But you'd have a problem. You'd have a problem dropping them funky ass Joe Biden signs off to my house.
At your house, yeah.
Here's what I want to say. So the reason why I said Melvin Carter, Ron Harris, Corey Davis, because they're like Ken Martin is now the chair of the DNC, right? Well, if reparations ain't a part of y'all conversation, then y'all not black, and I mean that. That ought to be the conversation for the nation, and they ought to make sure that this motherfucker hear that.
Yeah.
Because other than that, man, we just
they prevent it from happening.
Reparations got to be out of their tongues. Of every last one of them people I just named. Everything else is minute.
And here's another thing. We have supported everyone that's black in office in Minnesota. Like, I can say whatever I want to say about Melvin Carter now, but he will never say this nigga wasn't in my life for years, or anyone else, right? And so you can wash their back. I'm talking the party. If you wash the DFL's back, the party, not the people, they'll just turn around and say, now wash my front. But we not washing you none. There's for every vote we give them, there's nothing in return for us. I loved that Senator Bobby Joe on KMOJ on our show said that African American legislators never get what they write for 100%. Right, for the president of the Senate to say that on our community radio show, it's all telling. But if I go to talk to Bobby Joe and ask him anything, he'll turn his back on me because he has to. And that goes for everybody else. And if we don't turn our back on them collectively, so I hope that people are watching this live and do so. But if not, I'll just be running for governor again, and maybe I'll cry at the end of my race, but we'll find out.
I would say this much. I don't think that they have to. My observation on a lot of things is that other groups already assume that black politicians are going to look out for their people.
Mm-hmm.
They assume.
Mm-hmm.
So
but I don't make those assumptions. Again, I put in work.
Oh, no. But hear what I'm saying, brother.
Yeah.
They assume you're going to do it.
Mm.
You should feel no shame to do it because the assumption is already there because they're going to do it for their people.
Mm-hmm.
So when you don't do it, and you don't do it because what it is the polite Negro syndrome.
Mm.
You're still suffering from the effects of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to seem as if you're the rebellious one. And some of these things that you could vote for, like the African American Family Preservation Act, is not a rebellious thing. Yeah. It's a must.
Yes.
right? We're talking about must do's. So it's not that they don't have to. And the other thing that I would say is this, and I said this last week, and I still won't call out anyone's names, but when you take something like 12 Watch, for instance, and you're starting to say that, hey, forget about the cop component. Let's talk about the mental health component, the decaying of our collective mental health in our community. Don't we need 24-hour therapeutic supports in our community? Well, the app provides that.
Yeah.
Let's think about the access to lawyers. How many times have our community said that they want to sue their place of work, or they wanted to sue a government agency, or they wanted to sue a restaurant establishment because how they were treated when they took their families, but they can't find attorneys.
Yeah.
Don't we need attorneys? Oh, okay, all right. So we're dealing with human trafficking, and our daughters and our wives and even some of our sons are coming up missing. Don't we need a proponent where people can alert and say if they're being snatched? Now, when I have this conversation and I go talk to Black people, because I'm predominantly talking to Black people getting here and knows, and these are Black folks in powerful positions. White folks will say, tell me more.
Yeah.
Black folks will say, I don't know. Mine is my sister, Ruth Richardson, who said, I think that this is a great thing. And I think you should reach out to the people who are dealing with human trafficking in the state of Minnesota. And then when you reach out, you don't get a response. And I'm not upset because I understand the flavor is I'm a heterosexual Black male coming into this space where for the last decade, they have talked about patriarchy as if Black men are somehow the symbol of patriarchy, when we know that we all grew up in households. Even if your father was in the house with your mother, your father may have had the last say, but your mother ran the house because she was in the house more.
Yeah.
So we don't have a patriarchal system traditionally inside of the Black household. Perception of the father having the last say so. He doesn't have the last say so because he's the man. He has the last say so typically because he's the protector. If something has to happen outside of this home, if someone violates what's happening in this home, the dad is typically the one that's going to come out, and he's either going to go and lay hands on a person, or he's going to have to tend to that business. Mom tends to the children inside of the home. That's part of the protection structure. So I say that to you all to say, yes, Black elected officials must do more, right? But Brother Chris, everything that I heard from you, and even what I heard from you, John, today, it lets me know that I'm on the right trajectory with focusing on a business aspect first. Our nonprofit, the 501c3 for the Watch Foundation, is only for the mental health component to ensure that people can get therapy 24/7 at a sliding scale fee. Because that's the only reason why. The app itself is not a nonprofit organization. It's an LLC. And we want to make it an LLC so we can give jobs in our community, so we can give scholarships in our community, and so that we can do this nationwide where we're providing a service. We're not asking for you to give us a handout. Now, you think that that would be something that everybody would say, hey, this is a great idea.
I have a question. Can I ask a question before we're done here?
Man, go ahead. I mean, listen, I'm running the ship, so we can go as long as we need to. But go ahead.
So it's a shift. When it was probably this month, there was a vote in Minnesota on whether or not to ban men or transgender men or cis men from women's sports, right?
Okay.
And the ban didn't pass, right? Another reason, how I got here today, like this affects my psyche, my mental health, right? I have granddaughters that they stick little boys on her teenage teams, and it takes away from my personal granddaughter. I know it do, right? What I'm trying to say is, I guess I want to just ask a question. What y'all temperature is? Here's another one of my things. Again, my religion is my background is religion.
Right.
And so when I look at the BIPOC of our legislators, Senate and House of Representatives, Congress, right? They all claim to be Muslim, Christian, or Jew. I like how John said, Kasim, like, I ain't showing up for that. He's an imam, if I'm not mistaken, right? He can't or he shouldn't, right? But how many hijab wearing, how many collar wearing, how many whatever wearing legislators go against what they teach their own children at home or what grandma taught them at home. Clichely, I say in my family, our grandmother and our great grandmothers were not Democrats. We come from Mississippi. Democrats hung us, killed us in Mississippi, right? That's a given fact.
Yes.
There's no way in the world that we have forgotten over 2 generations what grandma taught us. That wasn't 200 years ago. My grandma is less than, right? I want to know, so talk about when we say what's going to hurt us financially, economically, right? The grant thing or how the mechanisms they use to give it out, but federal funding matters. I think, and I keep saying this, but I think the DFL party doesn't know how to negotiate with the likes of a Trump, right? Because of, so that day at the state capitol, the Republicans were outside talking about we can't let men into women's sports, whether it's women, girls, or not. But inside was a bunch of men on microphones, some with wigs and dresses on, that were stating, we will not let this happen, right? And they were not voting members, whether it passed or not. So again, my biggest thing is what I think is unsaid, because it's not unseen, is who controls the votes of our legislators. Right. And I ain't talking about John, right? Because when John was running, when I first saw him next to Tim Walz, I called John. I sent him a message like, John, be careful. Be careful. And then whatever not that I've foreseen something, I just know how they operate. So when I talk from experience only. There's many more things I could say that these people have done to me directly, back to that I want to sue for, right? It's hard to find a lawyer to sue the DFL party. It's hard, right? And I want to know y'all take on, number one, boys playing in girls sports. Mm-hmm. Number two, do you feel like our legislators are not protecting our girls? And because Trump is in office, there's monies that will not be given for these reasons. What's y'all take on that? Yeah.
I can remember the people asking me when I was going for the endorsement, they asked me, John, if you lose this endorsement, if you don't get the endorsement when you drop out of the race, I said, absolutely not. I'm not dropping out of the race because I didn't run for the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. I didn't run for the party. I'm running for the people. And I got the endorsement.
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing out of this Trump administration is stuff that I should have been seeing for the people I've been supporting for the past 30-some years. And I haven't. So when I see people like, and by the way, like this men, women in men's sports and men in women's sport. Come on now. Like, obviously men have an advantage over women in sports. And so for a man to say, I'm a woman and I'm going to play in a woman's sport, like you have an advantage. It's like, can you imagine a man punching a woman in the face? Mm-hmm. And then the opposite. Can you imagine a woman punching a man in the face? There'd be two totally different reactions. Like a man's punch is more powerful than a woman's punch.
Yeah.
And so that's like a no-brainer. Like, I don't want to like boggle my mind with like Trump's gonna tear this shit up and then we're gonna have to rebuild it. Like that's just what it is. And I'm enjoying like just seeing. But I can remember when they were on the campaign trail and Trump's gonna do this and Trump's gonna do that and Trump's gonna do this and Trump. They were spending so much time talking about what this man was gonna do, and they weren't talking about what the hell they were gonna do.
They still do it.
And by the way, bro, like I think that people have gotten tired of like every November seeing a flyer with the most popular people from the party. Like you get this flyer and that's who you vote for. These people right here are endorsed by us. Like people are tired of that shit, man.
So let me say this, and I'm going to bring it back to just simple stuff. Sports is a privilege. It's not a right. You don't have a right to play sports.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
You got a right to go outside.
No, sir. My mother took me off track teams because my grades wasn't right. No, sports is a privilege. Hold on, because you got to make the team.
You mean organized sports?
Sports in general. That's what we're talking about. and we're talking about organized sports,
is
a privilege. If we can say in the state of Minnesota, being a parent is a privilege, and they can take your rights away as a parent, why are we even having entertaining the conversation? What I try not to do with white supremacy is talk on the plane. I'm not going to talk on the things that you want to talk about because it's a waste of time to me.
I think it's going to be detrimental to us if the funding doesn't come because of
right
orders.
Right. But what I believe, brother, is the conversation has to be about common sense things. The Republicans, they stirred that conversation. I watched as they kept bringing transsexuals onto the Capitol floor. They want the conversation to be about that. They want the conversation to be about abortion. They want the conversation to be about guns. They don't want to talk about how we're going to move this country forward. None of the conversation is about moving forward. And the Democrats, what they do so stupidly is they entertain the conversation. Instead of saying,
conversation, though.
It's not that. No, it's not. It's not. Here's the funny part. A lot of them feel like Trump feel. They just ain't got the balls to say it. A lot of them feel just like Trump. They just ain't got the balls to say it. But because of the focus groups, and they feel like this is what's going to get me votes, they'll entertain it.
Yeah, true.
So it's an entertainment, but that's not how they feel.
Got you.
When you want to lead, you don't let your opponent dictate the music. And if you're going to lead the dance, you lead the dance. Part of the problem is that in politics, we have not learned how it's a card game, a Monte. Everybody's moving it around. How do we know? Well, we're talking about transgenders. Why is the Republican so pro-pedophile? See, you can't talk about one perversion without talking about another, because now you got rich corporatists who want little boys and little girls. So we're not talking about human trafficking and these kids who are being shipped out in child protection services, moved around so much that we lose track of them because these grown, rich, powerful men want to sleep with kids. It's not a conversation we're having, but we're entertaining a handful of men and women who can afford a sex change playing sports. What NBA, NFL, NCAA, or any organized sport are you going to be able to play in, sir? And if you are, right? If you are able to play, why is people confusing your privilege with a right? When I grew up playing sports, the coach chose who was on the team. I didn't make my 6th grade basketball team when I know I was one of the better players in the school. My homeroom teacher was the coach. We didn't get along, so he wouldn't put me on his team. It's just the facts of life.
Got you. I want to say this, man. The negotiation piece, right? I'm talking about our legislators, Democrat, Republican, the few Green, who's ever in there now.
Yeah.
Right? What I'm saying, though, is, like what I said before, Tim Walz's budget is something out of a Republican playbook. We're not going to ask you for more taxes to give away more money, but that's going to hurt people. If you don't do something to not cut from special ed transportation, right? To not cut from this or that. What I'm saying is, if our elected officials go against where the money comes from for something, like you're saying, it's not even a big conversation, but something as minute as every dad would say, nah, this little boy can't be on our team, right? That's common sense. And if the team gets better jerseys for whatever reason, back to washing, one hand helping the other, I think that voting Democratic only for the people who are in office right now are going to hurt us as a state, not just Black people, as a state.
But Chris, it's hard to tell people that voting for one party is going to be hard when they're watching another party nationally take out the Department of Education, take out the CDC, take out these other things that would have benefited our community directly.
Back to how do we negotiate? Because this is our state. We ain't talking all the
yeah, but we have to have a straight up conversation with them to say, and this is my point. Don't come talking to me about what a person who's done a focus group wants you to do, because that's how you lost the election. Focus group centered. Focus groups, y'all ain't talking to black folks. So you ain't gonna get my vote because you're not saying anything that's gonna make me want to go to the ballot.
So you're saying what I'm saying in a different way.
Brother Chris, what I'm saying is that the black family has been under attack for quite some time.
Yes.
If they came and just said that they were going to focus on families in general and was going to make a way for families, X, Y, and Z, they would get a large portion of the black vote. And they don't have to talk about transgenders. They don't have to even have that conversation. As a matter of fact, what they should say is we're gonna let the Republicans have that conversation by themselves. What do you think? I don't think it's a privilege for you to play sports, right? It's a privilege. It's nowhere in the Constitution that says that you have a right to play some organized sport, no matter what your gender is. There is no such law. So why are we even talking about it when we got a plethora of things that we should be talking about moving this country forward or moving this state?
Because of the lack of funding that vote causes.
Here's what I'm trying to explain to you. The lack of funding is not tax-based oriented. If you're a governor, you should focus on getting revenue via tax. The federal government is now telling you that they're not.
And I'm telling you, our governor is not focusing on that at all.
Well, if he's not, then someone else should run and beat him. What I'm saying is the conversation that